Welcome to the second installment of Living Well with Ian. I appreciate everybody last week checking in, and we wanted to make sure we got another video up for you as soon as we can. So here we are. It's Friday the 13th, so happy Friday the 13th to everyone. And I'm curious if anyone has tried the 24 hours of going dark, going with no screens, no cell phones, no TVs, just to get a greater sense of our own wellness. What level of wellness are we really functioning at? Because oftentimes there's so much information coming in, there's so much entertainment that we can attach ourselves to, that oftentimes that interferes with understanding really how we are, what level of wellness we're living in. So I'm hoping that everybody gets an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to take that opportunity to go dark for 24 hours and to really go inside and see how we're feeling and our level of wellness. So that was last week. I want to give you another little tidbit in regards to continuing to help our wellness and function at a high level of wellness. And then we're going to talk about diet. We're going to talk about diet a little bit, which is an interesting subject because oftentimes, and of course, you know, here at True Wellness, we say to everyone that there is no one perfect diet for everybody, and that it should be individualized on some level. And we use a lot of different techniques and philosophies to help people with their diet. But we're going to talk about it very differently today to give everybody the opportunity to understand what this body actually needs, what it's designed to handle in regards to our food. So before we do that, I want to give you another little tidbit on another way to increase your wellness. And one of those is, of course, to understand that our physical life is evolved with cycles. Everything is a cycle. So there are several different cycles that we want to maintain connection with and even have a psychological, a physiological, and a mental and emotional understanding of those cycles for us. So there are three celestial bodies that have a direct impact on our health and wellness. They are, of course, the sun, the moon, and the earth that we stand on. These are the three that we can see easily with our naked eye. They are in very close proximity to each other, even though we can say, oh, you know, the moon is hundreds of thousands of miles away and the sun is hundreds of thousands of miles away. In regards to the entire size of the cosmos that we deal with, the sun, the moon, and the earth are very close to each other, and they absolutely affect us. And let's start with the moon first. This is a cycle that most people are very aware of, and that is the 28-day cycle of the moon, from new moon to full moon. And that, of course, sets the cycle for women. It sets that menstrual cycle. Without that connection to the moon and that cycle of 28 days, none of us would be here. So that's how important the moon is. And for most of us, because it's always there, it's a constant kind of thing, we lose touch with that. And so it's a good idea to actually get an understanding of the cycles of the moon and where are we in the cycles of the moon. There's calendars that you can buy to actually track that, which is a lot of fun. And if you spend some time each evening going outside and actually doing some moon gazing, see what the condition of the moon is. Can we find the moon? Is it hidden behind clouds? This can really help reset our circadian rhythm, and it can absolutely help women reset an appropriate menstrual cycle of that 28-day cycle. So being in touch with the cycles of the moon can really help our wellness. And if somebody is kind of out of sync with that, one of the things that we can do is the night before, the night of, and the night after the full moon, pull the curtains back and allow that moonlight to come in to the bedroom and sleep under that moonlight. It'll help reset that circadian rhythm. We've had a lot of success with ladies who've had struggles with their menstrual cycle, and just have them do that for a couple of months and find that it goes back into a nice cycle. So the moon's very important. It pulls on our cerebral spinal fluid, the fluid in our brain. It pulls on the oceans and creates all the tides. So there is a very strong connection with life on Earth and the moon. The other one, of course, is the sun. And everything that we've ever consumed in regards to energy to feed this body is solar powered. everything. Even if you're eating animal meat, the animals get that energy from the grass and the grains that they're grazing on, which directly comes from energy from the sun. So to realize that everything is solar, all the energy that we get is actually solar powered, and there's a deep connection to the sun, of course. And of course we have 365 days that create the year for us as the earth goes around the sun, another cycle. And then there's something called the solar cycle, which is 12.25 years. And if we look back on our lives from 0 to 12 years old, from 12 to 24, from 24 to 48, there's these cycles that start to happen. And there's a 12-year pattern of the solar cycle. So it's another connection for us. And I tell people all the time it's a very good idea to go outside at sunset and watch the sun go down. Again, it helps that circadian rhythm. It puts us into a cycle with the planet, and can help you go parasympathetic at nighttime and get you ready to go to sleep. So we've got the moon cycle, we've got the sun cycle, and then of course there's the earth. And we're very deeply connected to the earth. In a lot of ways we've borrowed this body from the earth. If we look at the physiology, we're full of a lot of minerals that we can get from the ground. We are star stuff. There's all kinds of ways to look at the body, including the fact that it's a culmination and an accumulation of the food that we've eaten over our lifetime, all coming from the earth, of course. There's also an interesting aspect of our connection to the earth. The equator, that's the line that goes around the belly of the planet, is 21,600 nautical miles. That's how it's divided up. And then there's latitude and longitudinal lines, right? Each one of those is considered a degree, and each degree is broken up into what are called minutes. Each minute is 1 nautical mile as we move from the equator up along the planet or down towards the South Pole. That's how it's divided up. Well, it's interesting, they found that if an individual is relatively healthy, our respiration is about 15 breaths a minute, depending on how healthy you are and how old you are. But we all hover right around 15 breaths a minute. Well, if we're doing 15 breaths a minute, it's about 900 breaths an hour. And in 24 hours, that's 21,600 breaths. So we're literally, in 24 hours, we're breathing a respiration in and out 21,600 times, which is the same number of miles around the center of the belly of the earth. So it shows a deep connection for us in regards to these 3 celestial bodies that really have manifested all the life on earth, and of course human beings. So stay connected with the cycles. Stay connected with the sun, the moon, the earth. Realize that our bodies express those cycles all the time. And the more aware we are of them, the greater wellness, the greater sense of wellness we can create within ourselves. So I hope you've enjoyed this little section. And I want to talk a little bit about diet. So, what's the best diet for a human being? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can look at our physical self, the physical body. What does it really need? What's it designed to do with food? So there's 2 basic animals on the planet. There's herbivores and carnivores. There's the meat eaters and the plant eaters, right? And there's a blend between the 2, omnivores, right? If we look at carnivores, for instance, all the meat eaters on the planet, we notice a couple of things. Their jaw moves in a particular way. It does not grind back and forth. It only opens and closes to bite. Most of our carnivores, our meat eaters, have a lot of canine teeth. They've got a lot of sharp teeth that can bite the meat, but they don't actually chew. They kind of gulp it down, and they don't chew it because their jaw doesn't go back and forth. It's only designed to grab the meat like that. So they're actually eating chunks of meat, and they go into a digestive system. Now, if we look at the jaw, it doesn't grind back and forth. It only bites down. The teeth are very different. They're not a lot of flat teeth, a lot of very sharp teeth. And then we look at the digestive tract. Now, the digestive tract of most carnivores is somewhere between 2 to 3 times the length of their body. It's not a very long digestive tract. The reason it's not a long digestive tract is because meat takes a long time to digest. So they don't need a real long digestive tract. It's going to sit in there for good period of time as they break those proteins down and absorb that into their system. So carnivores, their jaws don't move back and forth. They can't grind. They have sharp teeth to bite the meat. They tend to gulp the meat down into a short digestive tract because meat takes a long time to break down. So they don't need a long digestive tract. That's your carnivore. Now your herbivores are a little different. Their jaws actually grind back and forth. They don't have a lot of sharp teeth. They have a lot of flat teeth for grinding. They have a very specific enzyme in their saliva that starts digestion in the mouth. Now, your meat eaters don't do that. They don't have that enzyme. Their digestion does not start in their mouth. It starts once it gets into the digestive tract. Your plant eaters, however, have an enzyme in the mouth that allows the breakdown to begin right away. Digestion begins in the mouth of herbivores. And that's one difference. The other difference is, of course, the fact that the jaw goes back and forth. Another is that the teeth are relatively flat. We don't have a lot of real sharp teeth to cut meat. And the next is the length of the digestive tract in a human being, or any vegetable eater for that matter. The length of my digestive tract is somewhere between 5 and 6 times the length of my body. So if I'm 5 foot tall, my digestive tract can be somewhere between 25 and 30 feet long. Now the reason for that is that if I put vegetable matter in my mouth and I start to digest it there and I grind it up and I put it in my long digestive tract, the reason it's a long digestive tract is that vegetable matter is a little easier to break down. So I'm going to leave it in the system of that animal for a longer period of time to get all the nutrition out of it that I can before I expel the waste. So, how's a human being built? What's our physical body tell us? Well, my jaw goes back and forth. I can grind food. If I take a grain of rice, for instance, and put it in my mouth and just let it sit there for a moment, I can start to taste a sweetness. A real sweetness will show up. Well, that shows that I have a particular enzyme in my saliva called amylase, and it starts to break food down right away into sugars. So I can taste that in my mouth. My digestive tract is really pretty long, 25 to 30 feet long, depending on how tall I am. So the food's going to stay in there for a long period of time before I expel the waste. So it looks like nature has set us up to be vegetable eaters. Now, some of us are excited about it, and some of us aren't. But regardless, if we look at just the physical body and how it's designed, we're designed to be primarily vegetable eaters. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have meat. You can have meat. Just realize that it takes a longer time to break that down. It's going to sit in your digestive tract much longer than vegetable matter does. And depending on how it makes you feel, you can be a meat eater on some level. It's also important to think about eating meat, if we're going to eat meat, as far away from a human being as possible in regards to the animal kingdom. So, some of the best things to eat are from the ocean. Your fish are farthest away from human beings. And then really the next would be maybe birds, small birds are farthest away from human beings. And as we come up the animal chain, the closer things become to human beings, such as pigs and cows and your larger animals, we want to start to avoid that meat on some level for a lot of reasons. One, it's absolutely more acidic. It creates an acid in our bodies. The other is that there's an emotionality for these animals. Fish tend to have less emotions, we would think. Plants have even a little less, although there's emotions in all of these animals. But as we climb up higher, there becomes deeper connections emotionally for animals with their offspring. It's been noticed very obviously that if you take a calf away from the mommy cow, there's a lot of grief going on, a lot of mooing happens, they realize that there's a separation, and so a lot of hunters are aware of this as well. You know, if I shoot a deer and I drop that deer in its place, I'm going to have some good meat. But if I shoot that deer and that deer runs for a period of time and it realizes what's happening, it's under stress, that meat is nasty. It ends up being not really very good usable meat. It's because a lot of adrenaline went through that animal. A lot of emotion went through that animal. And so when human beings eat that, they actually have to deal with a little bit of that emotionality that has come from the animal. So if we're going to eat meat, let's eat meat that's farthest away from human beings and farthest away from consciousness and emotionality, and realize that my body has to deal with that on some level. The other is to realize that physically we're really made up to be primarily vegetable eaters. Okay? So if we look at the body, I can grind my teeth, I can grind my food, my digestive tract is long. I really fall more into being appropriately eating vegetable matter than having the ability to bite, gulp, and have my short digestive tract digest that meat. So I hope that helps everybody get a better understanding and a guidance in regards to what we should really eat. Remember, this body that we have, this physical body, is a culmination of the food that you've eaten over your lifetime. And so whatever we put in, that's what we become. So we really do become what we absorb, what we eat, both physically and emotionally and mentally. We become what we absorb. So be careful what we stick in our bodies. Be careful what you stick in your brain. Be careful what you stick in your emotional world. And continue to strive to always increase your level of wellness. And we look forward to talking to you again probably next week, next Friday. Everybody have a fantastic weekend, and we'll talk to you then.